Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Trevor's Den. My name is Whitney, and it is time for another roll for reading. So, at the time of filming this, it's February 16th, but I had just finished up my last roll for reading, and I had such a great time with it. I had such a great time with it. Now, this is inspired by Sarah Hart's book, did a video based on another creator, Adventures in Ardia, who does Roll for Sandwich. So this is taken from them, more so Roll for Sandwich, like that inspired Sarah's video, and then Sarah turned me on to them, and then I wanted to do something with it for reading. And I had such a great time. It changed up my location. I had snacks. Like, it just really changed up my reading. And I had such a great reading experience with that specific book I read for Roll for Reading. So I'm already jonesing to do it again. I want to do my rolls now so I know what I have. And then I probably won't read the book until March. I have some other books I want to finish up for the month. But if I finish them up, there's still just shy of 2 weeks left in the month of February. If I can finish up the books that I am currently working on and have coming up, then I will definitely start this in February. If not, then it will be a March read. But I'm getting ready to do my TBR game, and I just wanted to have this book already picked out, already ready to go, so I know what I'm doing. And then when I have the time, I will actually do it. So if you don't know what this is, so the creator Adventures in Ardia does this Roll for Sandwich, where he does like a couple 6-sided die, a couple 12-sided die, and then also some 20-sided die. And he rolls for each component of the sandwich. There's also like a wild roll in there. And so he rolls for his bread, he rolls for his main, his cheese, his sauce, roughage, and everything. And so you never know what kind of sandwich he's gonna get. There's like the wild rolls have some oddball things sometimes, like sometimes there's candy that goes on the sandwich, things like that. And it is just so much fun to watch. I've been watching a little bit of the videos each night, and now he's doing some new videos, so I've been watching those. Like, so fun to see what he's gonna get. And I have a lot of food allergies and such, so I can't do anything like that related around food. But I thought I could do it for my reading, and I had such a great time. The last video, I'll definitely link that down below, so check that out. And of course, Sarah, her video will be linked down below, and Adventures in Ardia, their channel will be linked down below as well. So like I said, this is not my original idea, but I had a great time adapting it to myself and my reading, and I'm ready to do it again. So I'm going to get you over to roll and see what we're going to get. Hopefully, last time I forgot to roll for location twice. So hopefully I don't forget that this time, but we'll just have to see. So I'm going to get you over to do our rolls, and we'll see what the dice have in store for us. All right, so we are ready here. We have our D6, of course, our D12, and our D20. So we start with the D6. This is to roll for the format of the book. So let's go ahead and see what we got here. 4. So 4 is paperback. So that will be nice. All right, then we switch to our D12, and this is going to be for the genre of the book. So let's go ahead and see. 12. That is a nonfiction. Perfect. I was wanting a nonfiction on my TBR. All right, now we're back to the D6. This is for the age demographic. Hopefully it's an older one, because I don't think I have any nonfiction that are children's books. Oop, that popped out, so let's try that again. 4 is new adult. All right, and then we're going to roll our D12 twice for 2 locations. The first location will be, that is 9. And 9 is, re-roll 2, but I keep the other roll. So let's do our other roll first, and then we'll re-roll twice for this 9. So I'll have 3 locations. 9 again, so I'll have 4 locations. All right, no more 9s. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm not doing 6 locations, so we're just gonna ignore that. Okay, 4 is the dog yard. Okay. 1 is in bed. I like that. Okay, 2 more. 6. I was like, no, not another 9. 6 is in the car. And last one. 12 is my husband gets to pick a location. All right, so we're going to read in 4 different locations, one of which my husband's going to choose, so that will be interesting. Now we're on to our D20 Wild. So this is just a random assortment of things. Let's go ahead and see. That was a lame roll, but we're going to keep it. So 1, I have to read in silence, which means I can't have any background noise, which I really love my background noise. So, okay, and we're rolling another D20 for our snack option. Let's go ahead and see what we can get here. 7 is re-roll 2, so I'm going to get 2 snacks, which is nice. Okay. The dice is liking this re-rolls. 11 is McDonald's. That's nice because I can get McDonald's and read in my car, so there we go. And our other snack option is 15, which is a candy bar. That's nice. All right, well, I'm going to go see what I can come up with for a new adult nonfiction, and I'll be back with you guys. All right, I am back, and that was easier than I expected. So that made me very happy. So this book that I actually ended up going with popped in my brain as a potential for new adult nonfiction. And so when I Googled new adult nonfiction, it was like new nonfiction and such. So I didn't quite get it. So I then went and I put in college age nonfiction, and that came up. And this one, I don't like AI, but it was like this is the most popular college age nonfiction. And so I'm going to go with it. And that is Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. And like I said, it did pop in my brain. It is a paperback. I found this at a thrift store. It is a little bit of like, has some warping on the pages. I don't know that that's water damage or just warping. But it's still in pretty good shape otherwise, though. And so, yeah, I came across this at a thrift store. It's a fairly recent pickup, so I'm glad that I'm going to be able to read it sooner rather than later. And this is going to be a great option. So just, as a quick recap, it is a paperback, which is what we rolled for our format. It is a nonfiction, which is what we rolled for our genre. According to AI, it works for college age, which I consider the new adult category, like college age, you're transitioning, from childhood, living with your parents, to adulthood. So I think that works really well. Location, I almost ended up with 6 locations, but I'm maxing it at 4. Like, I don't want 6 locations. So we got 9, which was re-rolled twice. So our locations where we'll be reading this, I'll read it in the dog yard. I'll read it in bed, in the car, which goes well with our snacks. I'm happy about that. And then my hubby will pick one location. So I have to read this at least once in each of those locations. The car will probably only be once. The dog yard and in bed will probably be multiple times. And then it just depends on what my husband picks. I have to read in silence, which does kind of work because, in the car, I won't have like my phone or anything. Dog yard, I was actually reading in silence, so that's fine. In bed at night when I read, I typically am not watching something. Sometimes I will. But nighttime is more peaceful for me, so I don't get as overwhelmed by everything. So it's a little easier for me to read in silence at night. So that will work. And then, like I said, just depends on my husband's the wild card here. So yeah, I'll have to read in silence. And then for my snacks, I'll get McDonald's. So that's where I'll read in the car. I'll just go into town, get McDonald's, and then eat it there in the car while I read this book. And I get a candy bar as well. So I've been enjoying Mounds, which is I'm allergic to nuts, so not what's the other one called? I don't know. Almond Joy, I want to say, but it's just the Mound, so it's just the coconut and chocolate. I've been really enjoying those lately, so that will definitely be my candy bar of choice. So this is a great option. It's not very long, I don't think, so hopefully it won't take me too much. Let's see, 284, 84, 85. 285 pages long, so less than 300, and that's going to work nicely for me. So basically, this is Trevor Noah's memoir, I guess, or maybe it's short stories because it says stories from a South African childhood. But basically, let's see here. Does it even have a synopsis? I know it's based on like he was born a crime because his parents weren't legally allowed to be together. I think his mom's colored and his dad might be white. But there's not an Europeans and natives. So it starts off with the Immorality Act, 1927, to prohibit illicit carnal intercourse between Europeans and natives and other acts in relation thereto. And so yeah, it's basically his parents' relationship was illegal, and so he was born a crime. And so it's him growing up in South Africa during that time. So very excited to give this a read. It's kind of been on my radar for a while. And we'll see how it goes. I'm excited. I want to jump into it right now, but like I said, I have some other things I'm finishing up. It's only the middle of February. If I finish those up, then the last week in February, I'll definitely work on this. Otherwise, it will be in March. But I'm glad to have it picked out, and I will be back with you when we get started. Today it is finally time for Roll for Reads. So I originally filmed the intro to this and did the rolls and such the end of February, like, and now it is like March 12th, I want to say. We have Nidra in the back here because we gotta go get a money order to pay the tax guy that does our taxes. So, but we're gonna enjoy some McDonald's first and go ahead and start Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. So, since I have 4 locations for this, I do think I want to try to read a quarter of the book in each location, which would be 71 and a quarter pages. So I'll try to hit 71 to 72 pages at each location. And so the first one is McDonald's. Now I use my reward points to get some hotcakes, but those I will probably eat later on. Just kind of have those as a snack. So we have those. I did get an iced coffee to enjoy, and then I also got an orange juice with my meal. And then as far as the meal goes, of course we have the hash brown, which is what she's waiting for because I always do share with her. So we have our hash brown, and then let's see here again. And then we have our sausage McMuffin with egg, no cheese, because the cheese hurts me. So we have that to enjoy as well. And we get our straws here. Now we'll be drinking on our orange juice. And let's see how the iced coffee tastes. Sometimes it tastes better than others. So we'll try that first. You can see me over somebody who's waiting for a hash brown. So let's see here. I'm sorry, Nina. Very good. I like McDonald's iced coffee because they make it really strong. And I used to get the caramel iced coffee, but that was a little bit too sweet for me. I like it a little bit more bitter. So yeah, let's go ahead and move the bag over there so I can reach my drinks easier. And I'll open this up. See the cuteness tax? Mm-hmm. That's good. They did not give me napkins though. Luckily, I always have some in the car, so I definitely need if I'm going to eat and read my book. We got a napkin. Have a bite of this too. He's not spoiled at all. Not one little bit. All right, let's go ahead and tuck into our book. So yeah, I'm just gonna sit here, read, eat my food, and I'll check back in with you guys in a little bit. So. So that escalated quickly. Um, so this chapter, he's just talking about the time he got thrown out of a moving car. And it kind of led into a tangent about the three different churches they went to. There was a mixed church, a white church, and a black church that they went to, which leads to the day he got thrown out of a moving car. But he's like saying how he hates secondhand cars because they're responsible for a, a lot of like bad things that happen. You get detention, yada yada. And I didn't know this, but apparently, it said, let's see here. If it hadn't been for the Volkswagen that didn't work, we never would have had to look for the mechanic who became the husband, who became the stepfather, who became the man who tortured us for years and put in the back of his mom's head. I'm like, what? Like, I mean, I don't really know a lot about Trevor Noah, so like I don't know if that. I mean, I'm assuming like he just put it right there in the beginning of the book. It's probably something that he talks about. I would assume, but yeah, that I wasn't expecting that, especially not like right away. So, Yeah, I'm gonna just keep on reading here, and we'll see what else he's gone through. Alright, I just got to page 50 in Born in Crime by Trevor Noah. I wanted to try to get to the 70-page mark, but I'm getting tired of sitting here, and the baby is getting restless back there. She's ready, doesn't understand what we're doing. She had her snacks, and now she's like, okay, what are we sitting here for? So I am enjoying this a lot so far. He definitely doesn't hold back as far as like the violence in South Africa at the time and such. So it definitely doesn't hold back. That took a little bit like I just wasn't expecting that, especially right off the bat. Like obviously I knew that was gonna be a part of it, South Africa and whatnot. But yeah, so far he kind of balances that with the humor, which I really like. So it's not just all heavy. He balances it with the humor, and he's talking about religion and like the different like tribes and the separation and such. Um, and just kind of growing up. This last one was kind of funny because he would go to his grandmother's house, but that was a black community, like strictly black. And since he was colored, which is what the mixed race people were called, he wasn't allowed there. So his grandmother wouldn't let him go out and such to play with his cousins and whatnot. And he really wanted to do this. But this last part, he was talking about how one day it was raining and he didn't want to go to the outhouse because it was raining and there's flies in the outhouse and the water drips down when it's raining and they have to use newspaper because they don't have toilet paper and such. So he decided, well, why don't I just poop on the newspaper um, and skip the outhouse? Well, he forgot because it was, two rooms. So you had the place where everybody slept and then like the living area which has the kitchen and such for when they were awake. Well, his great grandmother was still alive and she was blind. And so in the mornings, they would put her by the stove where she would stay warm and she would stay there all day until bedtime. And so he forgot. And so he's taking a poop and she's like, who's there? And then he's like, oh, shoot. And he didn't want to get caught. Well, then because it's a mix of like the new Christianity and such, but also old beliefs. So everybody thought, his great grandmother couldn't see him, so they didn't know what was going on. So everybody thought that there was a demon. So then they had to pray to get rid of the demon and such. So it was kind of funny. And so yeah, I'm on page 50. I'm gonna go ahead and go get my money order, hit the post office, and then head on home. And we'll continue this in the next location. I'll check back with you guys then. All right, so I am back home now, and I'm at my second location. This morning I actually couldn't remember what my wild roll was, so I just checked and it was to read in silence, which I did do because in the car I didn't have the radio. I turned it off so I didn't have the radio on or anything. And then I'll obviously be in silence out here, and I can read in silence in bed, obviously, and then on the couch I would normally watch something on my phone as I read, but that's fine. So I know for you guys it has just been a second, but like I said, I did get to page 50 here. I was trying to do a quarter of the way, which would be 71, 72 pages for each location since there's 4 locations. Didn't hit that at McDonald's, which is fine in the car. My goal out here, I'll probably aim for another 50 pages, and then I'll focus on doing a bigger page count inside. But if I can get to 140, which would catch me up, I'll do that obviously. But yeah, I'm out here. I filled the dog's little stock tank up so they can wade in it. The 2 white dogs, Anya and Marley, are already playing in it. So I'm just gonna let them do their thing while I read. I just have water right now. Sorry, there was a fly, it scared me. I just have water right now, and I probably won't have another snack until, Barley, you're all wet. Go away. Until I get inside, and then I'll probably have the candy bar. But I'm hoping I can finish this up today. So yeah, I'm gonna let the dogs play. I'll turn the camera on them for a little bit so you can see them playing. I did overfill the tank a little bit, and so Marley's getting all muddy because he's playing in the mud as well, but that's fine. They're lab mixes. They enjoy the water. And yeah, me and Nidra ended up, we did the money order, then ran to the post office, then ended up hitting both of the thrift stores in town, which I got 4 books at each, which was nice. And there was actually one that's been on my want list that I found, so that was really nice. So anyway, I'm gonna get into this and I'll be back with you guys when I have an update when I'm getting ready probably to head inside. actually only made it to page 75 out there, so I read 25 pages. It was just getting kind of hot, and the flies kept attacking me, and the dogs, they didn't want to be out there anymore. So I was like, you know what, that's fine. We'll go ahead and come in where we can all be comfortable. I got, I can show you Anya, who's wet, and Nidra right there. And then, of course, the cat working back here. But yeah, still really enjoying this. He was talking more about his childhood and such, and kind of his interactions in school and with, you know, different, white, black, and he was colored. He went to like a private Catholic school at first, and he didn't have like that experience of separation. It wasn't until he got older and he went to like a government school that he started feeling that separation. And they wanted to put him in the smart classes with the white kids, and there's like an Indian kid in there. And he was like, no, like I want to go with the black kids. And he kind of talked about how his mom really set him up for success, making sure he knew all kinds of different languages and such. And so like he would find himself in these situations, people want to mug him, and he would, hear them talking in their language, and he would respond in their language, and they'd be, oh, sorry, you know. So that was really interesting how language played a part there as well. So, yep, I got my snacks here. So one of them was a candy bar, so I have my mounds in here. And then I have the hot cakes from McDonald's earlier, since that's my other snack. And then still just my water back here, since I didn't get any other drink options. And I've done with my McDonald's drinks. I finished the orange juice this morning, and then I finished the iced coffee when we got home. So yeah, this is my snack while I'm going to continue to read, and I'm just going to kind of stay here throughout the evening, take little breaks as I need to, like feed the dogs or whatnot. And then the last location is in bed, so I will continue to read this tonight in bed. If I looks like I'm going to finish it before then, because it's about 3 in the afternoon right now, and if it looks like I'm going to finish it before then I'll just save like the last little bit for bed, and I probably won't film that, so I'll just finish reading in bed and then update you guys tomorrow. But I'll kind of update you one last time before that point, before we go in there. So yeah, I'm just gonna sit here and read. The dogs are all passed out now. They got their sunshine and it's exhausting for them. So I'm just gonna sit here and continue to read and snack on my things and drink some water. It's actually good that I didn't, other than what I was able to have at McDonald's, I didn't get a drink, because it's helping me make sure I drink my water, especially outside. It was so hot. But so that's the plan, and I'm just gonna get on with it. So I'm reading this section about loopholes, and he's talking about when he was at the Catholic school, how since he wasn't Catholic, the he couldn't do communion like the other kids at the school, and he didn't understand the rule. Like he's like, and he kind of had this thing like if the rule didn't make sense, he wasn't going to follow it. So he basically went and stole all the grape juice. Like I think it was crackers. Um, and ate it, and of course he got in trouble. But he was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, you broke the rules because somebody ratted him out. One of the other students ratted him out during confession." And he's like, "You're not supposed to, that's private." And so now you're breaking the rules, and so why is that okay? Um, and another time, like the principal was allowed to spank him, and so he's getting a spanking and he's laughing because he was thinking, man, I wish my mom spanked me like this because it wouldn't hurt. And so basically the principal or whatever is like, we could expel you. You really need to think about whether you want to stay here. He's like, well, I don't. So there's that. And so his mom, ends up coming down and whatnot. And she's actually relieved, like, because it is financially a burden. Um, but, he's saying that, like, when she thought the rules didn't make sense either, she was on his side. He wouldn't get punished for it. But the principal, so she didn't agree with that he couldn't take communion. He's like, that's a good thing that he wants the body and blood of Christ. And then he's like, well, your son was laughing while I was hitting him. And he's like, well, that's your problem. You don't know how to hit a kid, which isn't funny. Like, nobody should be hitting kids. But, different culture and such. And so it is kind of funny because she's just like, well, if you're not hitting him properly, that sounds like a you problem. Not a him problem. And he got sent to like therapists and such. So anyway, that's why I was laughing because I thought that was quite funny. Um, and yeah, but his mom, it's like there's such a duality there because, like, obviously, I don't agree with spanking and hitting kids, like, especially in this culture. Like, it's not just a spanking, like, it's kind of rough. But like his mom would, deliver her punishment and then be like, okay, dinner's ready, like let's watch whatever show. And he'd be like, well, you just beat me. Like, and now she's like, it's not that I don't love you. Like, it's that you did something wrong and so you got punished. Like, but I still love you. Like, I didn't do it out of malice or anything like that. It was discipline. Um, so there's definitely kind of this duality there with the culture and his mom and such. And he was talking when I was reading outside, he was talking about how like his mom had no problem, disciplining him, but like he would go to his grandmother's house and be with his cousins, and he kind of learned early on that because he was mixed, he was colored, like he got preferential treatment. So his grandma never would discipline him, and she would discipline his cousins, but never him, because he was, white in their eyes. And so there was a duality there. And so like he would steal cookies, and his cousins would get punished, but not him. And so he learned, to kind of cheat the system a little bit, and his cousins would be the ones that were suffered for it. So anyway, I'm gonna keep on reading here and keep snuggling these babies. I love when they're snuggly like this, especially this one because she's floofy. Huh. It's about 6 o'clock. I need to get these pups fed. They're starting to mutiny. They're hungry. But I made it to page 160, so I have 125 pages left of this book. My husband's on his way home, so I think I'm gonna call filming for today right here. Of course, you guys won't know the difference. But I'm probably going to read a little bit more out here on the couch. And then the last location, of course, is in bed. I'm not going to film that at all. That just feels a little weird to me. But I'll definitely, tonight finish it up in bed before I go to sleep. I always like to lay in bed and read a book right before I go to sleep. And so that's the plan. I'm really still enjoying this. It's really focused on his race, um, and how that played a part growing up. Um, Kind of the political climate of South Africa and such at the time as well. And yeah, just really enjoying his story. I think for the most part, I like his humor and the way he describes stuff. There are some like phrasings and such that are a little problematic. There's things that are really heavy and dark, but he counterbalances that with the lightness and the humor. So there's that, but like he was talking about this fat white kid or these fat white kids and how when they would get food after assembly, he'd run and book it and be the first one there. So he like took advantage of that monetarily. So kind of things like that, like certain phrasings and such that's just not the greatest. But otherwise, still really enjoying it, and it's definitely dark, but he really balances that out. So yeah, I'll probably read a little bit more, and then my husband and I are reading This Inevitable Ruin by Matt Dinniman right now. We have like 200 pages just over that left of that, and we didn't read last night, so I know he's gonna want to read tonight. So I'll probably switch over to reading that with him at some point, and then I also have a digital book going that I read a little bit of this morning, so I'll probably switch over and read a little bit more tonight as well. But I have no doubt I'll finish this tonight. Of course, for you guys, I'll be just a second, but I'm gonna be done filming for the evening, and I'll hop on tomorrow morning after I finish this, and give you my final thoughts on this. But like I said, of course, for you guys, it'll be just a moment. And so yeah, that's the plan. I'm gonna go get these pups fed, and then just enjoy the evening, and I will be back tomorrow morning. All right, so it's actually Friday the 13th, about 1 o'clock, and I just finished Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. So last night, I said my husband was coming home, and I was just gonna kind of read a little bit more. Well, the night completely fell apart, so we changed the filter in our well, and then we started having problems with our water pressure. And it's happened before, and so I was like, "Did you check the air pressure? Because last time it was that." And so we did, but we were still having problem. Like the outside water was fine, but the inside water where it filters through the filter was a problem. And I had ordered the same filter, but when we got it, it had the same like packaging. I mean, I didn't scrutinize it closely. Had the same packaging, but it was a different color, which was a little weird, but otherwise it looked the same. And so we're thinking it was the wrong filter and it just got stopped up for some reason. So it was partly the air pressure, partly that. Got a new filter, put it in this morning. Everything's gravy again, but that was really frustrating. And then he also gave me some news about his working situation, which fingers crossed it will all work out, but things might be changing on that front as well. And we just got the car, like our first payment comes out next month. It couldn't be worse timing. So of course that upset me. So basically, anyway, the evening fell apart. So I did read about, let's see, I was on page 160 when I stopped off with you guys last night, and I got to 195. So I read 35 pages more last night in bed. But by that point, I was exhausted. We did read a little bit of This Inevitable Ruin by Matt Dinniman last night. Not very much there. And so, yeah, we read a little bit of that. And then I read a little bit of this in bed, and then I was just exhausted. It called it crashed out. So this morning I had 90 pages left to go. So I went sat outside with the dogs, read a little bit out there. It was getting hot. The flies were buzzing me. And so I came back in and I finished up on the couch location, but I did hit all 4 locations. So that was good. And yeah, finished this up. I gave this a 4 star. I did really I liked getting insider perspective of growing up in South Africa and such. The culture, a little bit of the history with Nelson Mandela, a little bit of history there, the culture, um, his experience being mixed, and how that played in with how he fit in, because he didn't really fit in with the blacks, but because culturally, like the way he grew up with his mom and his cousins and such, he culturally fit in with the black kids, and that's who he gravitated to. But that would upset the colored kids because you're colored, because you're mixed. But it was really interesting getting his experience on that. And then also, the way he used language, because his mom made sure English was his first language, but then she also taught him, like, he learned a bunch of the different other language in the area, because there's a ton of languages, there's a ton of different tribes, and the way he could use that, like he would hear somebody behind him talking about mugging him, and he would turn around and speak to them in their language, and then, oh, okay, all right. This last little bit, he was kind of talking about he had a friend who was in the hood. And so they started going there and, um, selling pirated CDs and such. And at one point, they went to this other place because he would do DJing as well. And they went and then they did like a dance battle against these other kids. Um, in a different township and such. And on the way back, the police pulled him over and they all got arrested. And when he gave the address to the police, he's like, "Why are you hanging out with these guys? Like, you're not the rabble, essentially." So it was really interesting, like seeing his different perspectives and such. It did come back around in the end to his mother and his stepfather and kind of what happened there. Because if you remember when I was at McDonald's reading this, I was like, that escalated so quickly, like his mom got in the back of the head, and I was just like, what? And then he doesn't really talk about it again until the end, and then you learn what happens. And yeah, definitely some things that were a little bit jarring as far as their views on animals, especially cats, and some violence against those. So if you're going into this, be aware of that. That might be a trigger warning for you. Domestic violence, definitely a trigger warning. The culture, the way they discipline their kids, they get beatings. Like, that's the culture. And it was kind of like this duality, because you're like, the way he would talk about it, it was like it wasn't that big of a deal, and he really loved his mom and such. She's the main one doling out these beatings and whatnot. But especially when it kind of comes back around to his stepdad, he explains the difference was with her, I was never scared. I did something wrong, I was getting disciplined. She was doing it to discipline me, not because she was angry, and I knew she was just doing it to do the discipline, and that would be that. Where with his stepfather, the first time his stepfather hit him, he was terrified, because it wasn't being disciplined, and he's what's holding the rage there, and he didn't know when it was going to end and such. So that duality was kind of interesting to see. And just there's definitely a little bit of culture things, you're, as an American, I'm like, whoa, like. But then there's also things regarding the DV, he was talking about how his mom went the first time his stepdad hit her, she went to the police, and they're like, oh, no, 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 go back home, just totally dismissed her, and that was kind of the situation each time. And then when the shooting happened, that came back because he didn't have a record or anything, even though this had been going on. You could see the escalation. And it's even though I'm a white girl growing up in America, I could actually still relate to that, because when we had the big blow up with my stepdad, it was my mom me and my two sisters and my eldest sister had two little kids. They made us go to a hotel and let my stepdad stay in the house. It's like, and like they got on my mom because or my sister because she had hit my stepdad because he was in her face, and so she had hit him, and then like, well, we could take you to jail. And it's like, but we're not going to, like, the kindness out of their heart. He's a grown ass man. Like, and you're threatening to take the, it was my oldest sister with the two little girls, and they're, of course, crying. It's like, you're going to take her to jail. So I could relate to that, even though obviously it was to a different extreme in South Africa, like a completely different extreme there. But I could still relate to that. There's still this kind of good old boys mentality and such, even here in America. And so, white family, we're all white, but and it's America, the rules are a little bit different and such, but I could still relate to that. And so there is like common things I could relate to, but at the same time, it was just a completely different culture, completely different, setup to anything I would know, especially like cats and such. That was a bit jarring for me as well. But yeah, I found this like I don't know, like obviously Nelson Mandela, I know a little bit, but like I'm not very familiar with everything that he was talking about in this book, and getting like his perspective as somebody who grew up there. Um, it was I'm really glad I read this, essentially, is what I'm trying to get at. I'm sorry, I'm tired. I get stressed out to the max. My brain's not functioning the best. But yeah, so I got this read and I gave it a 4 star. The main reason 4 stars was some of the humor wasn't to my taste, like especially regarding like you know, fat people he encountered and he make a joke about that. That wasn't really to my taste. And he did get like a bit rambly, like the first chapter, he started and then he like went off on this big sidetrack and would like loop back around, which isn't like my preferred. Like I want more straightforward writing. I don't really like rambly writing, but I still really enjoyed this, and I think it's an important read as well. So that was another role for reading that was a success. Again, just kind of the experience of like grabbing the book and going to specific locations and grabbing specific snacks and such. I read completely in silence because that was a wild role, which is not something I typically do. My mind tends to wander a little bit when I do that. But overall, it worked well for me this round with this specific book and the specific locations I was in. And it just makes, excuse me, for a more mindful reading experience. And so, yeah, I'm already looking forward to doing the next roll for reads. Honestly, it probably won't be until May because Beryllium is coming up in April. So I'm going to definitely be focusing on that. So I probably won't do another roll for reads until May, but I am looking forward to it already. I absolutely love doing this. And I do encourage you, if, to give it a try. Like, even if you just like, okay, I'm going to read this book, do your normal, however you pick your book, but then be like, okay, like, let me randomize my location and let me randomize snacks or something. It just makes it so much more mindful and adds to the experience of reading the book. I've really enjoyed it. So I'm really appreciative that Sarah Hart's book brought this to my attention, and put me on. I'm still watching Adventures in Ardia. He has a new video out that I need to watch right now, and really enjoying his role for sandwiches. And I'm so glad they were able to inspire me to do this because it's really, like I said, mixing up my reading experience and making me more mindful about how I'm reading, which is a lot of fun. Anyway, I would love to know if you've ever read this book. I would love to know your thoughts as well, or maybe what you're reading right now. I would love to know that. If you just want to let me know you were here and you're helping to support the channel by commenting, you could always leave a rabbit or any type of animal emoji. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.